We have one more item tonight, which is the overview of the light power utility. Is there a staff presentation?
There is, Mayor. I am going to turn it over to Teresa Connor, who is our Interim Utilities Executive Director. She's going to be joined this evening by John Phelan, who's our Energy Services Senior Manager, by Adam Bromley, who is an Interim Deputy Director of Utilities, and then by Lance Smith, who is in the finance branch of our utilities. And so the three of them are going to kind of tag team this evening. And Teresa, any opening comments for us?
Yes, Kelly, thank you very much. And my colleague Adam Bromley is going to run the PowerPoint tonight. But council members, this is our third of 4 utility overviews, in that we're trying to provide just kind of a systematic overview of the systems and their needs, and make sure that we're in alignment with your direction. And so, Adam, can you share the PowerPoint as we get started?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Sorry. Can you see that?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, great.
So if you go to the next slide, Adam, our question really for you tonight is, are there any questions about our direction or any feedback for us? And if we go to the next slide, we'll follow our typical agenda that we've done in looking at the strategic alignment and the customer and the system, and we'll make sure that we leave time for questions and comments. Next slide, please, Adam. So as we look at strategic plan alignment, or the city strategic plan alignment for light and power, there are 3 areas. Economic health, in that a reliable electric system is an economic driver for us. And we do hear that from our industrial and commercial clients. And that is one thing that brings those industries to us. Also, high performing government, this is a very technology driven service. And we do provide central services like locates and other things. But the main alignment I really want to stress here tonight is alignment with Environmental Health 4.1, which is intensify efforts to improve resilience and meet the 2030 climate, energy, and 100% renewable electricity goals. We do understand that is a high priority for the community and for you, Council, and those goals are to reduce the 2030 greenhouse gas emissions by 80% below the 2005 baseline levels, provide 100% renewable electricity by 2030 with grid and local sources, and have additional targets for local renewables, electricity and natural gas efficiency, grid flexibility, electric reliability, and energy codes. So know that we are really focused on this and really look forward to your feedback on that tonight. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, John Phelan, to talk about our customers.
Great. Thank you very much, Teresa, and good evening, council members and members of the public who may be watching. So again, my name is John Phelan. I'm the Energy Services Manager here at Utilities. Looking at our customers, Light and Power serves more than 77,000 customers, homes and businesses, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they're broken down into these broad segments you see on the screen. We're fortunate to have a very engaged and educated community. Our residential customers are a combination of single family and rental homes and apartments. Our commercial and industrial customers make up 2/3 of our electricity use and range from the retail shops and restaurants to key business, industrial, and institutional partners. And we also have the unique opportunity to engage with our customers regularly through our utility bills, of course, our home energy and water reports, the crews interacting on projects in the field, and every day through interactions on the phone, at our counters, and on social media. Our customer feedback informs the work that we do. Utilities uses J.D. Power, the global independent market research company, to conduct electric and water customer satisfaction surveys. We received great feedback earlier this year from over 1,800 responses from customers. There were several themes from the survey results that we think are really worth sharing with you. First, our customers recognize that we provide reliable service, including the aesthetic benefit of our underground power lines. that we care for the environment with a robust portfolio of programs and services, and that we're able to provide excellent customer service that includes very knowledgeable staff. Next slide, Adam, thanks. We also identified 3 themes for us to continue focus on improvement. Electric rates was one of those themes. Some comments we received were around understanding why we have time of day rates, what is the price of electricity, what pricing changes are we anticipating. Our customers would also like to receive more communications from us, be that on conservation tips and rebates or on avoiding utility scams. The third theme relates to our billing and technology systems. Our customers want to do more on their own. They want to receive outages by text messages, information. They want self-service options for everyday actions, including conservation. And while our customers are generally more empowered than ever before, we're still excited to explore ways to transform this feedback into growth for our organization. And with that, I'll pass it on to Adam.
Thanks, John. Good evening, Council. My name is Adam Bromley, and I'm the Interim Deputy Director for Light and Power. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how our electricity gets to you, the end customer. And I'm going to start with how electricity is generated. As most of you probably know, we get all of our electricity from Platte River Power Authority, our generation and transmission entity. They generate electricity utilizing multiple electrical renewable energy sources, including hydro, solar, and wind. They also generate utilizing the more conventional sources of natural gas and coal. These resources are located throughout the Front Range, Western Slope, and in the case of the Roundhouse Wind Project, Wyoming as well. We are a 48% equity owner of Platte River, shared with Loveland, Longmont, and Estes Park. Platte River is governed by our 8-member board made up of our local officials and of the 4 communities who set strategic direction for Platte River. After the electricity is generated by Platte River, it then travels to the 4 owner communities via a high voltage transmission system. While Fort Collins is nearly 100% underground utility, the majority of our transmission infrastructure Platte River operates is overhead. This transmission system then serves the substations in each of our 4 owner communities, which is where the distribution of the electricity to our customers begins. In the past, our distribution system was largely overhead. So in order for us to maintain acceptable reliability levels with an overhead system, we had to budget a significant amount of money for tree trimming to maintain line clearances and reduce power interruptions. Here at Light and Power, we have a history of innovation and adaptation in our system design. And because of that, we now have a distribution system that looks very different. Our present day distribution system is characterized by underground vaults, cables, and transformers. We encourage and accommodate customer-owned distributed energy resources, or DER, like solar, that interconnect to the distribution grid and provide benefits to our customers. We've also added walls instead of fences to our substations for better security and concealment. And due to the nature of our underground system, we no longer require aggressive and very expensive tree trimming programs. In addition, to support better system analysis and awareness, our advanced electric meters, which were installed in 2012, provide us with a much higher data resolution to enhance our view into energy flows, which means we can now offer the customer more information on their energy usage and enable future interactive energy transactions. In the future, we expect and must be able to accommodate increasing amounts of DER like distributed solar generation and battery storage. We also foresee the pairing of smart homes, electric vehicles, and advanced meters to better enable us to partner with customers on their energy use. This technology and associated programs will support beneficial electrification for building heat and transportation as part of our climate future. Our distribution system is comprised of 7 substations, over 2,000 miles of underground cable, 8,600 transformers, and 12,000 streetlights. In 2021, we set a new community-wide peak electric demand of 318 megawatts. And that's with a population of about 174,000 people. For comparison, since 2005, our population has grown about 33%, and our peak demand has only increased about 10%, which means that our energy efficiency and demand response programs have done a phenomenal job at supporting our desire to limit our carbon footprint. Along those same lines, in 2020, the generation portfolio included 54% of energy coming from fossil fuels, while 46% came from non-carbon sources. And while we set that distribution system peak demand this year of over 318 megawatts, our electricity carbon emissions are down 38% from 2005, which is a big deal. With all of those things in mind, you can see that we are definitely aligned with Platte River's goals of 100% non-carbon electricity by 2030 as part of our climate future. Knowing that we have these very aggressive goals for our electricity generation, we understand that reliability of our distribution system becomes that much more important. I'm going to end on a slide that tells our investment and reliability story here at Light and Power. The chart you see is our way of comparing Fort Collins to other electric utilities across North America. The important thing to keep in mind when looking at this chart is that our desired result for reliability purposes is to move down on the y-axis and left on the x-axis. A dot lower on the y-axis corresponds to shorter outages, and farther on the left axis corresponds to less frequent outages. As you can see from this chart, the reliability of our distribution system is by far one of the best. In order to maintain our reliability at levels that our customers have come to expect, we will need to continue to invest heavily in capital improvements and asset replacement programs to keep our infrastructure strong. With that, I'll hand it back over to John Phelan. Hey, John, you're muted.
Thank you for that. Sorry about that. Thanks, Adam. Let's turn our attention to our customer energy services. While you may not immediately think of our customers as part of our infrastructure, you'll see in this presentation how integral they really are. We offer a comprehensive set of services to help all of our customer segments manage their use and their bills. These efforts leverage programs, pricing, and education to support overall outcomes of efficiency, conservation, grid flexibility, carbon savings, and affordability. Our overall community electricity use would be 15% higher this year in absence of these programs, and that's saving our community over $20 million in lower utility bills. Next slide. Distributed energy resources, or DERs, are increasingly important aspects of the electric system. From an old-fashioned thermostat to a rooftop solar system or an electric car, these devices will be essential to optimizing and operating a clean, renewably powered grid. While we have been matching the power supply to community use since the utility was formed, as we move forward, DERs will be needed to help match our community use to variable renewable generation. While I would bet that you are all already familiar with beneficial electrification, it simply refers to transitioning away from petroleum for cars and natural gas for heat in favor of modern, efficient equipment powered by clean electricity. Light and Power has a long history of innovation and adaptation to a changing Fort Collins and now a changing world. Some of these major milestones are highlighted here, from our underground distribution system to the formation of Platte River, to the rapid adoption of air conditioning, and on to the implementation of advanced metering and time of day pricing. Each step has led us to a point where we're more prepared for what comes next. Looking ahead, we see the need for continued investment in Light and Power, along with increased renewable energy, electrification, and the integration of connection as our next challenges to be embraced. Utilities are facing unprecedented change in the coming decades with tremendous challenges and also opportunities. We know there's going to be much more wind and solar. There will be new technologies, there will be new business models, and evolving risks. And each of the factors shown on this screen are worthy of an in-depth discussion, from growing climate risks to serving historically underrepresented groups to the complexities of a clean, all-electric future. Taken together, these challenges provide a map of focus area opportunities to be addressed by the community and by us as Light and Power. Many of these also have specific strategies and tactics already identified in the Our Climate Future Plan. Fundamentally, these challenges mean dynamic and changing relationships between our customers and Fort Collins utilities, between Fort Collins utilities and Platte River, and between Platte River and a future regional electric system. But we're also fortunate to have a wide range of tools in our toolbox so that we can take advantage of these challenges and turn them into opportunities. For example, our coordinated planning with Platte River is now a continuous, ongoing effort and incorporates forecasts of DERs. The bottom line is that we can leverage our investments of time and money in our electric system, software, planning, programs, and broadband to deliver on our community priorities. And while our customer relationships will become as multidimensional as the flows of electricity, we'll remain committed to the guiding principles of environmental responsibility, reliability, customer service, and affordability. And now I'm going to hand it over to Lance Smith, who will talk more about our financially sustainable business model.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Lance Smith, the Utilities Strategic Finance Director. As an enterprise fund, the Light and Power and Telecommunications Fund is required to generate adequate but not excessive operating income. Historically, you can see the utility has tightly balanced the operating revenue collected through the monthly charges and the operating expenses. This should continue going forward with the need to increase the operating income as we increase the capital investments in our system renewal and infrastructure. So speaking of those capital investments, long-term capital investment and planning is extremely important to the viability of any capital-intensive business, such as our municipal utilities. We operate from a 10-year window and sometimes beyond that for our capital improvement plans. Here you can see significant blocks of investment projected over the next 10 years to support infrastructure and technology needed to meet our customer expectations and needs. For some historical context, we invested just over $7 million in capital work in 2020 and just over $11 million in 2019. Next slide. Now, how are we going to pay for those capital improvements, some of which serve existing customers and some of which are intended to serve new customers? So the revenues needed to operate, maintain, renew, adapt, and grow our electric infrastructure come from two types of charges. We have the monthly charges based on usage, and then we have one-time charges or development fees based on anticipated demands. The wholesale energy charges from Platte River Power Authority, along with the distribution O&M costs and system renewal, are supported through those customers' monthly bills. These costs are allocated to our customers into a fixed base charge and variable charges based on utilization by rate class. The growth of the distribution infrastructure necessary to serve new customers and new customer demands and the site-specific infrastructure needed to serve them are paid for through those one-time electric capacity fees. Now, practically, the cost of adding the infrastructure to meet the new demand occurs before the development happens, and we recover those costs. The electric capacity fees are set such that growth does pay its own way through these fees. Now, this slide shows some rate comparisons for residential and commercial customers. Often we only focus on the average residential customer, but you can see here that our small and large commercial customers pay less than those of the co-ops, investor-owned utilities, and other municipal utilities as well. The chart on the bottom left shows the cost of a representative residential customer at each of the Colorado municipal utilities. The orange bar reflects the amount such a customer would pay in Fort Collins in 2021, and the green bar to it shows that what that customer would pay in 2022 after the proposed 2% rate increase. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Teresa to talk about how it happens.
Thank you, Lance. And this is my favorite part of the presentation, but council members, when you turn the light switch on and the lights come on, it's not magic, right? It is the result of a highly dedicated and professional staff of over 200 folks that include a range of employees from our crews on the front line to the engineers, scientists, designing and monitoring the system and working through our energy policy work, to the locators and warehouse staff and customer service team, finance team, and our community engagement and communications team. And without this team of dedicated professionals, we would not have the reliable system with the great service at a very cost-effective rate to this community. And appreciate the time here to acknowledge their work. And so with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Mayor, for any questions. I will note that Tricia Fugate with PRPA has also joined us tonight. And so we'll take your questions and feedback.
Great. I saw her join us. Thank you so much. Thanks for that. I especially like those last slides as well. Are there questions from council members? Let me go to a better view here. Oh, I can't see everyone right now. Can you take the screen off?
Yeah, Adam, can you stop sharing?
Oh, great. There we go.
Is that better?
I can see. Yeah, that's much better. Susan has a question. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. I'm fascinated about the worker who's sitting there with his pet cow. Is there a story to that?
There is a bit of a story in that, we had a cow in the wastewater presentation, and so they're trying to find the cow themes. But, when they're when they are converting to underground, we are going through pastures often. So we're just trying to sneak in some little themes for you to see if you notice.
Oh, it's very tender. It's very tender, Teresa. Thank you so much. I just looked at that when I said there's got to be a story.
Oh, Tricia?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. And with the storm raging outside, I really appreciate our reliability of our utilities right now. There are other places I've lived that wasn't always the case. My question is, how are we able to operate at such efficiently and so well at such a lower cost to our customers? I think that's really admirable, and I think that's one thing that makes our city another reason we're so great place to live.
Well, I'll take a first stab at this and then look to Adam and Lance. But we always say that we stand on the shoulder of giants, and that those who came before us made really good investments in the system and really allowed us to really just build a better system. And with, pretty disciplined financial investment in our system and continuing to look at where we invest where reliability is critical. And also PRPA does fairly good rates for us. So we've just really been able to build off prior investments to provide this service. So I'll let Adam and Lance add to that.
Yeah, I would not add too much to that, Teresa. You're definitely right. The decisions that were made in the past were part of our, basically we're able to have that and that ability by those decisions that were made early on, by City Council in the 60s to say we're only going to be doing new infrastructure underground, and then supporting staff and Light and Power in the 80s to start proactively undergrounding existing overhead. And that was more than a 20-year project in order to underground those facilities. Underground, inherently is much more reliable than overhead because of weather and animals and those kinds of things that cause those power interruptions. And so those decisions were made long before most other utilities were thinking about those things. And that's when we talk about the history of innovation, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about ideas that were brought to the table that were not being done in a lot of places. And so us being on that leading edge we were really able to create a system that is a lot of utilities are frankly jealous of. We get a lot of comments from people. How did you do that? Well, we started 60 years ago, so that's a big part of it. I'll let Lance kind of talk to the financial piece in a second. The one thing I do want to add to that is that we are using data of historical outages and equipment failures and those kinds of things to identify where the most likely power outages are going to happen in the future. So we're able to very pick the locations that we're making very specific investments into our system to make sure that we're maximizing the money that we're putting in. And Lance, do you have anything to add?
I won't really add too much. I will say, again, that it is long-term planning. One thing that we do have that separates us from some other municipal utilities is that we are an owner of Platte River Power Authority. A lot of other municipal utilities are purchasing their energy from Xcel or Tri-State. And so those are companies that have a profit objective, and that affects kind of the pricing. So long-term planning and the benefit of owning our generation.
And I might just add, Trista let me know that PRPA does have the lowest wholesale rates in the state.
Oh.
So that also, they're a good partner for that.
Thank you. I appreciate those answers. Just one other question. I'm wondering how incentives for EV chargers, batteries, solar panels, how much faster that's moving us to uptake of solar throughout the city. Are you seeing those incentives paying off?
Yes, I'll be happy to jump in there. So we've seen, especially in the residential sector for homes, the double-digit and more increases year over year the last several years. So we go back even as few as 5 or 6 years ago, we were doing dozens of solar applications and solar rebates. This year, we're expecting approximately 600 to be processed through our system, and we've been able to do that partially due to many factors. The price of solar itself is coming down. We have many active local contractors providing those services, and our rebates help bring those contractors to work in our community. We have steadily reduced the rebates as the price of solar has come down to kind of keep that balance in place. And we expect to be able to serve all of the requests for those rebates as we move forward. So lots of activity there, a little bit less so on the commercial side. It's a more challenging economic proposition for business customers. Ironically, part of that is due to our low electric rates. So we have a great benefit, and I don't think our customers would make that trade-off, but it does make the sort of strict value proposition a little bit harder for them to make on a business decision.
Thank you. That's really helpful to know. And that's all I have. Great presentation. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Seeing none. Nobody? I think there are no further questions. Thank you also very much. And thank you, Trista, for joining us tonight. Really appreciate that. And Julie and I are proud to be on the board of PRPA and always funnel any questions through us you have. And thank you very much for that presentation and your good work.